Oh, yes. I started reading these 832 pages of the domestic violence manual for those that are judges. Yes, And I found it somewhat interesting. I actually had to do some research on my own about what some of this means. Yes, and I'm sure that this manual is what is used. Pooch. It's a very exhaustive manual about domestic violence. Yes, the Domestic Violence Bench Guide for Judicial Officers. Ooch. Is that officer of the court, as in you're an oath of office, or you have certain fraud laws that you have to enforce? Oh, because I thought the use of forgeries, either by the petitioner as a party named or as a court officer of the ex officio superior court clerk, yes, did violate the actual domestic violence laws of the United States. Now, I'm not really very happy today, but I did look at all of those that were participants of the revisions, these honorable judges of Pierce County, Kitsap County, Christopher Weekham and Regina Kahan, John DeBook and Hirsch. Now, I tried to think of all the judges that I had emailed from the Washington State Supreme Court directory. Yes! I just wondered, did any of the judges that participated in this revision of 2015, 2016, do they have any knowledge of any fraud? Pooch! Now, Cheryl Gordon McLeod was on the Washington State Supreme Court, and I did recognize that name, though I don't think she's there anymore. Then I noticed that Barbara Mattson isn't the Supreme Court Justice of the state of Washington. It says that Mary Fairhurst is. Do you guys kind of change jobs whenever you want, or do you? Well, why don't you get me the Supreme Court of Washington State today? As an individual that has been emailing them for the last 2.5 years, it is such that I'm wondering why the fuck it is that this state's doing this. Okay. Now, I just wanted to know. Oh, look at this. Could you the Tulalip Tribal Court? Yes. The Indian Bill of Rights, and then the Squamish Tribal Court. Yes. The Kalispell Tribal Court. And the Seattle University of Law. Now, yesterday I started emailing a few additional individuals. Yes. And my thought was that maybe there's some other nations that need to be involved, because you seem to have a pretty good understanding of the behavior of the perpetrator of domestic violence. Yes. In fact, you give two different definitions. You have behavioral definition, yes, and then you have the Washington State legal definition. Pow. And I found it interesting that the domestic violence court, assaultive and coercive behaviors, yes, and then the legal definition is the physical bodily harm, bodily injury, assault, or the infliction of fear of imminent physical harm, bodily injury, or assault. I got, well, I'll probably tell you about it later, but it looks like a lot of psychiatrists have been evaluating those that have been participating in domestic violence for the last 30 years. Now, inclusive regarding conduct, pattern both criminal and non-criminal conduct, includes but are not limited to the conduct noted in the legal definition. Yes. Now, it's so good that we involve so many of those in the psychiatric arena. Yes. In well, what is the behavior definitions of domestic violence? Yes. Domestic violence is a pattern of assaultive and coercive behaviors, including physical, sexual, and psychological attacks. Yes. As well as reproductive and economic coercion. The adults or adolescents use against their intimate partners. Now, as I remember it, I was married for 10 years. Yes. And when we first got married, I did go to counseling because I wanted to be married. How many of those that our domestic abusers actually went to counseling, both marriage counseling before marriage and then after marriage when they were having disagreements? Because I was never physically assaultive to Heidi. I never did. Now, in the first year of our marriage, we got in an argument, and I think I did put a hole in the wall because I did not touch my wife. Oh, I was never assaultive to either my wife or my children. Oh. Now, the 4 years before we moved to Guam, I never used any profanity at all. I was one of these Christians. Yes, I thought the use of profanity was, well, unnecessary when being married. Poach. See, when we moved to the Washington State School for the Blind, yes, I was the father of a stepdaughter. And I had a pretty good business in Squim. I had an office at 224 West Washington Street, and we had a little house at 323 First Street in Squim, Washington. Pooch. And we had Zachary and Bishop and Deacon, and then Jessica had some special needs. Yes. So as a stepfather, about 8:30, I thought that I should sell our house in Squim in 2014 and move to Vancouver so that my stepdaughter could be supported. Now I know how many abusive fathers would use their own money, pow, to sell their house to move to a different city where they have no business relationships. Yes, to support their disabled blind daughter. Pouch, because, well, I'm pretty fucking sure